Hey everybody, today I wanted to do a real quick video and talk about chainsaw bar maintenance. Hi everybody, welcome to Good Day Farm. Thanks for watching the video. And I just want to do, this will probably be a pretty quick video, just kind of talk about chainsaw bar maintenance. I know some of the people I talk to and people I know that run chainsaws seems to be an overlooked area of maintenance. And all I'm going to touch on today is just the basic cleaning and maintaining of that chainsaw bar. I'm not going to get into dressing it. That's a video we'll do later, and that's going to be more about when the groove that the chain rides in starts to wear out, and the top of that of the bar, you'll feel the edge getting sharp. It'll feel like it's rolling over, mushrooming, whatever you want to call it. And there's techniques and tools and stuff for fixing all that. I've seen some bars pretty bad and people throw them away and think they're junk, and you can actually file all that down, put a little chamfer on there. You can close the gap back up if you need to, and you can do that quite a bit before you actually wear your bar out. And if you have the right kind of bar that has like a replaceable sprocket nose, you can replace those as they wear out. So sometimes it's not cost effective, just depends on the size of bar you run. But in the bigger bars, it's definitely worth dressing them and replacing the sprocket rather than just throwing the bar out and buying a new one. So anyhow, today all we're talking about is cleaning it. And what I recommend is to do this either every time you sharpen your chain or like every 2 tanks of gas. Just depends on your filing method or your sharpening method. I know a lot of guys like to touch up their chain after every tank of gas. I'm one of the guys that I just wait till I feel that it's getting dull and not cutting well. Depends on what I'm cutting, where I'm cutting, what I'm doing. Sometimes I can go like 3 tanks of gas before my chain even starts to show any lack in performance. So as a rule, you know, about every 2 tanks of gas. Again, that's going to depend on what you're cutting, the type of wood. You know, if you're doing a lot of, you know, pitchy wood or something, you may need to clean your bar a little more often to get the pitch off of it, and you know, just make sure nothing's getting down in that groove. You know, if it's whatever, you know, if there's dirt or dust in the air that could be getting attracted to the oil, all that oil and sawdust and dirt and gunk is going to build up in the groove that the chain rides on, and I'll show you that here in just a second when we clean this bar. So the tool you're going to need for doing this, or the recommended tool, looks something like this. Just a little thin piece of sheet metal that's been stamped out. It's got a little hook on one end. I don't actually know what this little detent is for down here. If any of you guys do, share with me. They don't recommend, and I wouldn't recommend, using a screwdriver or your scrunch, you know, the screwdriver end of it. And simply because, granted, the tip will fit in the groove of your bar like that, and you're going to get some stuff out and think you're clearing it. But because of how these are wedge shaped, you're not getting all the way to the bottom of the bar. And the key is you want to get everything out all the way to the bottom of the bar. Otherwise, when you fire your saw back up and start running it, the oil that starts going through there is just gonna, you know, just get right in with that dirt and stuff again, and you know, defeats the purpose. So first thing I like to do, now this is a fairly new bar, so it's not gonna have a whole lot of gunk on it. So you want to wipe all that down, or this is what I do. You guys can do it any way you want, but I like to get the bar fairly clean, so while I'm handling it, I'm not getting this oil and stuff all over myself. So like I said, since this is a pretty new bar, there's not a whole lot to clean off here. I think I've only had this a couple of days. You've been cutting with it a couple of days. If it was an older bar, or if it did seem to have a lot of dirt, here on the front is some buildup from the pitch, stuff like that. I want to just go ahead and knock all that off. Now, do I have to? Maybe not. But it's a good way for you to, you're touching and feeling the whole bar. And what I was talking about earlier, this groove of the chain rides in, this can get widened as the chain, you know, as it wears out, and then the chain will rock side to side, and that's not good. That'll cause your cuts to wander. And then this edge here, hopefully you're seeing this, will kind of like mushroom over or splay out, and it'll actually be sharp. You'll know it. You know, you'll touch it and feel that sharp edge. that's when it's time to dress that and get that off. So what I'm gonna do right now, I just use whatever your favorite degreaser is. I don't have any recommendations on that, but just soak it all down and then wipe it off, you know, get it clean. So we've got it pretty clean enough. I don't see any built up pitch or anything stuck to it anymore. And so now we're ready to use the little tool. It's kind of funny, I get people that ask me all the time when they see pictures or videos or even come over to my house or I'm going to their house using the saw, when my bar is mounted like this, and they'll say your bar's upside down because the wording's upside down. Now for those of you that know, obviously you know what I'm going to say, but those of you that don't, it's very important that you flip this bar. And my rule of thumb is same as when you clean it. So every time I clean it, I'm going to flip it. And that helps keep the wear even on both sides. You can always tell an older bar that you get from someone that they never flipped it, because you'll see the wear pattern on the bar, on the bottom of the bar will be way more wore out than the top, and that's typically because more people cutting down than they do cutting up, so more of the pressure and all that's put on the bottom of the bar. You'll also, there's other indicators, which I wish I had an old wore out bar here I could show you everything and explain it to you, but you'll see towards the front, like where the roller sprocket comes off, the bar has like a dip, you know, really worn into it. You know, there's all kinds, there's things that cause that, and it's typically maintenance, dull chains, poorly oiled chains, all these kind of things that if you're seeing this stuff happen to your saw, it means, you know, or to your bar, excuse me, something's not right, and you need to stop and take a look. But anyhow, let's get back to cleaning this bar. So take your little tool, and using the hooked end, always start at the sprocket end. You don't want to drag dirt into the sprocket, you want to drag dirt away. I always just put the tooth bar right in by a sprocket tooth, and you'll feel it kind of right there, it's locking in. So that's where the sprocket goes all the way around. So that's where if this bar was apart, there would be a shape here for that to roll in. And now I'm just going to let it pull out from that, and I can feel it, and it's going to ride straight down the guide of the bar. See that dirt coming out? See all that sawdust? And that, if I was to take this out with my hand and touch, it's very oil soaked. So that means my bar was getting oiled all the way to the end, and that sawdust and dirt was collecting that oil. And just keep pulling that down all the way down. You see all that coming out. That's fine. I mean, that happens. It's not like, oh, I've used my bar and I've got all this stuff in there. I can go out as soon as I clean this and cut, and it's going to do that again. The key is to not let that get built so bad, so deep and so packed in there that your chain actually can't ride in the groove, and it's pushing the chain out, which would keep you from being able to tighten it well. You know, or it may tighten, you may think it's tightened, as soon as you run the saw, you know, it starts to pack that dirt up and it pushes, you know, then the chain's really super tight, things like that. So that's why it's important to do this pretty regularly, to keep that from building up in there. And so you just run it through a couple times, and as you can see already, I've got nothing coming out. Do it on both sides. It's a really quick and easy process. I recommend everybody, if you can get these at your local store where you buy your chainsaw accessories, I'd grab a couple of them. They're real inexpensive, a couple of bucks a piece. I order mine online. Just have one in every toolbox, in the glove box of your truck. Just have them everywhere. They're inexpensive enough that you shouldn't not have one around. It's kind of like having scrunchies available all the time. You'll have one in your pocket everywhere you go. Now, if you look at your bars when they're not on the saw, I forgot to mention when I was talking about these holes that mount, there's also this little hole down here. That's where the oil from your saw actually gets injected into the bar and will run in the chain, will pull it around. So there's only one on each side. Flip it over, there's the other one. Very important that when you're doing this, as you clean it, make sure, hope this can show up, it probably won't, but if you look with your eye, you'll see the metal pass by. That means that hole's clear. If I couldn't see that, then I would need to either spray some cleaner in there, take like a torch tip cleaner, poke it in there. You can use air, whatever your favorite method is. This hole's, you know, it's at an angle. It's not very much big hole, obviously, but you want to make sure it's clear. So I typically just running this by it gets it out no problem. And then I'll check it again on this side, make sure both sides are clear, so when I'm out in the field, if I flip my chain bar over, I don't have any issues. And it is. Yep. And then there's a little bit of dirt getting in the hole there, because that actually, I don't know if you can see that, but that comes all the way through too. So that's not as important, but you know, just get it all out. And there we go. That's all there is to it. I personally don't do anything else at this point. I just put it back on the saw, put the chain on, and I'm good to go. The steel bars are greaseless tips, so there's no hole up here to grease the sprocket tip. I know some, especially older bars, but I think there's still some new manufacturers that have a little tip up here to grease, and they make a special little grease gun. It's just a push gun that, like, you know, almost looks like an EpiPen, and you just put it on there and push and grease, and that's important to keep this greased up here. These have sealed bearings, and they don't need to be greased. And then again, that's just like everything else. There's two camps on that. Some people say you got to grease them, and other, you know, these are fine. I've not had any issue with the steel ones. I really like these bars. But at the same time, everything I have is steel. So I don't really have a lot of experience running Oregon or Carlton or Windsor or any of the other brands. So I can't really say if they're, you know, one's better than the other. What I can say is if your bar has a grease tip, grease it, use it. There's a reason they put it there. Just like, you know, we got the oil hole here. But other than that, that's really all there is to this. Very simple. There's no reason why everybody shouldn't be doing this. I think the reason people don't do it is because they don't know to. And so I hope that this was informative and helpful. And I think I covered everything. If I forgot something, just ask a question down in the comments. If you have any tips yourself on how to do something that I showed, feel free to share it. I appreciate the feedback and comments and all that kind of stuff. That's great. So let's keep the conversation going. And so again, if you have any comments or questions, tips, ideas, suggestions, anything, feel free to share them. I look forward to hearing your input. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Have a great day and be safe out there. Thank you.